Hey everyone, I wanted to take a few moments to go over the garden activity that was our intro to environmental science and ecology activity, where you guys went outside and took a look at your yard, neighborhood, or park. So the first chunk of this activity was to look at biotic and abiotic factors. And we talked about this a fair amount in class, but I still saw some misconceptions pop up. So for biotic, it can be anything that is living, or more importantly, what gets missed is anything that was once alive. So leaves on the ground, stump, twigs, mulch. Any of these things are going to be biotic because they were made or once alive. Mulch kind of hits a gray area where you could maybe think of it also as manufactured, which brings us to abiotic. So with abiotic, it's going to be things that were never alive. So that would be air, rocks, sun, water, soil. For the most part, soil. There are some biotic parts in soil as well. But air, rock, sun, water, soil, CO2, and oxygen, really any elements or minerals. Okay, but what's not going to be abiotic are things like your bicycle, your car, your family car, the concrete that's outside of your home. Those are all going to be things that are man-made, so we would put those in a third category of manufactured. So I'm sorry that I didn't clarify that before we went into this activity, but those would fall under manufactured, not under abiotic. Needless to say, I did not take off points for that. And of course, also under biotic, you'll have all the animals and plants listed as well. So there's a lot more that can go under biotic. All right, scrolling down. So you had to come up with 3 plant organisms and 3 animal organisms. Hopefully you found something somewhat specific, giving me as much information as you could, maybe a specific name of a tree or specific animal, not just birds, but maybe a specific type of bird. This question, what is a habitat? This threw off a lot of people, which makes me think that I need to go over it again because maybe I wasn't clear enough the first time around. So a habitat is not just a place. You can have multiple habitats in the same place, but a habitat is a set of characteristics that are unique to a specific organism. So it is all the things an organism needs to survive and thrive or reproduce. So I could have multiple habitats in the same area because I'm just focused on what the categories or characteristics that the organism needs in that area are. So like with your home and with your yard, you'll see that the next question asks you to describe 3 organisms found in your yard, describe their habitat. So they're all living in your yard. You don't have to write my yard because that's not the habitat. The habitat is everything that the organism needs to live and reproduce, survive and thrive. So you could say that the rabbits living in my yard find clover that they need, shelter in the bushes, grass, flowers, water from, a local creek or from the dew on the grass. They find warmth by digging holes in the soil in my yard. They have air and sunlight, so everything that the organism needs to survive is going to be found in that habitat. And then in your yard, you could also have a completely different habitat in the same location for the worms, or for a crow, or for a daylily. So there could be multiple organisms living in the same area, but they all have different habitats. They all have different characteristics that they need filled. Okay, so that was a big one that I saw. Not too bad with this question 5, biotic and abiotic factors. Review at the top if you got caught off guard there. What is a population? Describe a population found in your yard or neighborhood. So a population is just going to be a group of the same species. Living in the same area. So they can reproduce because they are living close together. So maybe you said population of ants, or population of dandelions. A community. So a community is going to be all the populations in an area. So, maybe I didn't expect you to list every single one, but perhaps more than 2. You could say that there's a population of grass, there's a population of honeybees, there's a population of toads, there's a population of squirrels, all of these things living in your neighborhood or your backyard. And that would make up the community. Notice I didn't list anything that was abiotic because communities are only made from living things. Ecosystems are going to be communities plus abiotic factors. So this is when we're looking at a more broad representation of our biosphere. So we are going to talk about the communities plus the abiotic factors that make up your yard or neighborhood. So describe an ecosystem in your neighborhood or your yard. You could say that, maybe your neighborhood has a pond, and you could describe the ponds, the water in the pond, the rocks, the grass, the fish, the birds, all of those living and non-living components that come together to make that ecosystem work. Difference between a population and a community is just going to be that a community is more than one population. And the difference between a habitat and ecosystem, this was confusing to a lot of you because probably just the misconception of what a habitat really is. So the habitat is specific to one organism. So let's say the habitat is the specific characteristics for one organism, and the ecosystem is all of the organisms and abiotic factors in an area. You could go on to say that there are many habitats in a single ecosystem. All right, and I'm almost out of time, but the changing environment or the effects in an ecosystem if you are to build a greenhouse, you're going to be removing some habitat space for some organisms when you're also building some habitat space for other organisms. So organisms that would burrow underneath of a greenhouse are going to have that added benefit. But then again, organisms, especially plant populations that might have been growing in that area, are going to be depleted. You can also think about how it might affect the water infiltration in the area. So now you have an impermeable surface, or a surface that doesn't allow water to pass through, so that could lead to problems. All right, I am going to go ahead and sign off. Please reach out to your teachers if you have more questions.